Hey, it's Dave from the camera store. Today we're talking about the Fujifilm XF 70-300. This is the Fujifilm XF 70-300 LM OIS WR lens, and it's the latest in the XF lineup from Fuji. Now, it's a very lightweight lens with a great range and the ability to focus nice and close. Now, I'm looking forward to digging through this lens and seeing what it's capable of doing. We're going to start shooting some wildlife here, and then we're going to move on to some sports a little later. First off, let's talk about the range of this lens. Now, it is a 70-300mm lens, but with a crop factor on the Fuji sensors, we are looking at 107 by 450 mils. Now, at the long end, 450 mils is great for shooting wildlife, especially some of the smaller birds here. Now, I am wearing my green Canadian camouflage, so hopefully they don't see me, but earlier today I was able to get some really nice captures with this lens. Now, if you take a look at these two samples here, you'll see the full range of this lens. At 70mm, you can barely see that red-winged blackbird in the distance, but at 450 mil equivalent, I can zoom in and really get a nice capture of that bird. While I'm waiting for the birds to get within perfect range, which they won't, let's talk about image stabilization. So on the Fuji, they call it OIS, Optical Image Stabilization, and it's very cool. What this means is that there's an element within the lens itself which is floating effectively. So it counters my motion. If I move left, it moves right a little bit. If I move up, it moves down a little bit to give you some nice sharp shots and some sketchy shutter speeds. Now, where you're going to benefit from this the most is at dawn and dusk, when your shutter speeds are a little bit lower than you like them to be. But like having this as part of the lens because it gives me another advantage to get some better quality shots. We've taken a break from photographing the birds. They are being particularly elusive right now, and even with a 450mm equivalent lens, I'm not having any luck right now. We might check it out in a little bit. Now, something I'm always doing when I am shooting out in the wild is keep my eyes open around my feet, looking for flowers or bugs or anything else of interest. Now, in the past, you usually have to carry a second lens like a macro to photograph these kind of things. The XF 70-300 has the ability to have a really close focusing distance. It's just shy of a meter, or about 32 inches, and allows me to photograph some small flowers like this, which I don't know what they are, really adding to the versatility of this lens. When I saw these big blue chairs here, I kind of made the decision to just relax for a little bit. And it's not because I'm tired from carrying around this big heavy lens, because it's not a big heavy lens at all. It's just because I'm completely out of shape. If you're an existing Fuji user, the XF lens is going to feel right at home with you. Very similar to some other lenses they have, including a focus-by-wire manual focus ring at the beginning. We have a decent sized zoom ring in the middle and the aperture ring at the back. Now, we have a few switches on the lens, including a focus limiting switch. Now, this is quite nice. If I know that my subject matter is beyond 5 meters, like most of the birds have been today, I can leave it on that, and it's not going to try and rack focus from min to max acquiring focus. We should be able to get a little bit quicker focus. We also have a manual aperture and the automatic aperture switch, and the coolest feature I think on this lens is the ability to lock it at 70mm, so you don't have to worry about lens creep as you're walking around. Now, some other lenses I've seen on the market over the years, you have to unlock the lens to actually make use of it. Fuji's been smart enough to realize I can just twist it and unlock the switch right away and make use of the lens. We're going to leave this birding paradise as the birds aren't cooperating today. Now, I wasn't really able to get a really good sense of how quick this lens can focus because the birds have been pretty stationary. Now, we're going to shoot some sports and see if we can come up with a better test for the autofocus of this lens. So we've left the bird sanctuary because we wanted some more action. And we found an Aussie Rules football club here in Calgary, of all places, called the Calgary Kangaroos. Now, I don't understand a thing of what's going on with this sport, but there's a lot of action, and I'm finding that this lens is tracking really quite well. Now, in the naming convention of this lens, LM stands for linear motor. That's referring to the style of motor it uses to drive the autofocus elements. What this means is that the focusing elements are pushed and pulled straight back and forth rather than rotating. It makes the lens quicker to focus and can certainly rack focus from min to max faster than the ones that can rotate. Now, I'm running the Fuji X-T3 today in its boost mode with the eye detection on and wide area tracking. And with the linear autofocusing motor of this lens, I'm finding in this situation with this kind of sport, I'm not having any trouble keeping up with the action. Now this lens has a very good range for shooting this kind of sport on a really big pitch like this. However, it is a f4 to 5.6 aperture lens, so inside this lens is not going to be very effective. I'm not going to shoot hockey with this lens at all. However, outside I'm getting my shutter speeds up nice and high, and I'm able to capture some really good quality of action. When it comes to image quality, this lens is delivering some very good results from edge to edge, both at the 70 and at the 300mm range. And I'm finding even if I stop down a little bit to f8, it's not sharpening up very much at all, which is good because this is not the fastest aperture lens, and I'm primarily shooting this lens wide open all the time. Now when it comes to the lens design, we do have a spherical element and 2 ED elements, which is certainly going to help out with image correction and a little bit of sharpness and saturation and contrast, all those good things we look for in a nice lens. However, we do have a 9-bladed aperture, and they are circular, which is nice, but that's where I have a bit of a problem with this lens. I'm finding that the out of focus areas aren't really pleasing, and quite often I'm isolating the bird, for instance, and I'm getting kind of a busy background with it. So you have to be mindful of that. The other big thing to concern yourself with is that it's a nice range for shooting portraits at the wider angle side of things, but if you have any specular highlights or only tiny little light sources, you're really going to get some serious onion rings and some cat's eyes. This is not trying to sell itself as a portrait lens, and I'm okay with the bokeh being a little bit strange because I'm not really noticing it too terribly bad with most of the subjects I'm shooting. It's not that distracting. We're starting to lose light here when it comes to the Aussie Rules football, and I'm keeping the shutter speeds up high as I want, but I'm really getting punished with high ISO, so we're going to wrap up pretty quick here. So what do I think of this lens after spending some quality time with it? I really quite like it. The image quality is very good out of this lens, and it's very versatile and practical. It doesn't weigh me down at all because it's a relatively lightweight lens. I get great clarity and crispness at both ends of the zoom, and I have the ability to get nice and close. This is a really functional, versatile lens to carry with you. And I think in the Fuji lineup, it is going to be a favorite of a lot of Fuji users. If you have the 55 to 200, it's slightly less expensive. However, you don't have any close-up focusing range, and you don't have quite the reach. And if you want to step up to something more, you have the 1 to 400, although it is significantly more expensive, much heavier. Although it does have a tripod collar, I do like that. But this lens is going to fit into your kit much easier. I, of course, want to know what you guys think of this lens. Is it going to find its way into your kit? It's a great versatile lens, so let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, and please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll catch you again next time.
Always you guys, eh?
I want to get to those close-ups.
Okay.
Will Dave get through a take?
Was that recording?
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for sticking around and watching this episode. If you want to check out our most recent episodes, click up here. And if you're a Canadian and you want to shop local, try and find the bird down here and click on it.